I knew that wasn't right for her to be sitting alone without the family, without being thankful, all of that.
Aww.
So it's kind of just like from an early age.
Isn't that
other
amazing?
People's feelings mattered,
That early, though. 3 years old.
And that's when your personalities, by 2, 3, and 4 are already formed.
Stamped in. That amazes me. And,
Yeah.
Oh, you know what, Becky? We're going to pause for just a moment.
Ew.
So, what propelled you into choosing this career path, this choice?
I actually kind of fought this career choice.
Interesting.
In high school, I was not very academic. I just, didn't really put too much effort into it. It wasn't that I wasn't smart, but the only class I can say that I ever read the book for fun was psychology in like 8th or 9th grade. I read the whole book a million times. It just fascinated me. It kind of found me.
Wow.
And I tried, different things along the way, but it was what I always came back to. And just the power of therapy. I had an ex who had cystic fibrosis, and it's a genetic disease, but he was never open to therapy, was never open to ever the possibilities of getting double lung transplant. It was just, that's how it was. Somehow, and I don't know how, maybe he just came to terms with his health himself, but he started seeing a therapist, and it really, I could see just a change in him, a change in the way that he viewed himself, a change in the way he viewed others, just how powerful it was. And I was already going to school during that time, but that just really, really, really pushed me.
Nice.
And then I got to know, after he passed away, I got to know his therapist pretty well. And she just, oh my gosh, you want to talk about a hero?
Wow.
This lady is just amazing, and the impact that she could have on someone. Since I could remember, I genuinely care about people. Where I really can't think of another career that would have suited me. It just kind of
you do
always
really
felt
care
right.
about people. You're so passionate about what you do, and that's big reason why I wanted to have you on the show. But you just have this this deep place for wanting to give and care for people. I'm sorry about your ex. Did that as far as shape any part of your career, or how has that impacted? Did you go into therapy yourself after that? Were you in therapy before?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was a lot of therapy. Grief in general is
Right.
a lot.
Yes.
When I was at the rehab, I created my own group. It was grief and loss, because I noticed a pattern in a lot of the guys and it was a male and female facility, but the majority was men, but a lot of them, when you work with someone in addiction, and addiction's a whole different realm.
Right.
You have to figure out the reason why they use. The physical dependency part's there, but the underlying reason is some emotional issue that's going on. So a lot of them, I realized, was, my grandma died, my mom died, my brother died, and that's what got them in it. So I started this grief and loss group where,
wow.
So to this day, I don't know if those guys got more out of it or I did. It was just,
wow.
When you're talking about that and being vulnerable with people about grief and loss in general is such a different part of therapy. A breakup is a loss.
Sure.
You have to grieve that relationship. There's so many parts in the world, but if you don't process that and heal from it, I've seen it, just carry on with people their entire adult lives. It definitely affected me. And one thing, I have a ton of grief quotes that I, tell myself all the time, it doesn't go away. People say, oh, in time you'll feel better. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, as time goes on, you can accept it more, see it from a different point of view. I actually wanted to do my internship with his old therapist.
Oh, wow.
And it just didn't work out with my school. They wanted her to take on a couple of other people. But I realized at that point in my career where I was, brand fresh out of grad school, would have been way too soon for me to be taking on because she works with children and their families with terminal illnesses.
Okay.
So long term, after probably like 5-10 years after being licensed, then I would like to get into that.
That is what
but
your
I think
ultimate
even for now it would just be too much even.
Right. Grief is something that, like you said, it could be, a literal, passing of someone, or a bad breakup, or, something like that. It's perplexing to me why our culture as a whole doesn't just like have grief powwows all the time. Because I feel half the healing, right, is talking about it. And so many people, I feel like it's unfortunately connected to like a shame. There's like a shame, even if it's not their fault, they feel like less than because they've lost someone or something important to them. And that breaks my heart because I wish there was a magic way we could just take that away so they would all just freely talk about it. And then I think people could kind of expedite their healing and knowing like they're not alone. And almost every single person walking this earth has gone through grief of some sort.
And the hard part too is there's 5 stages of grief. They don't go in order. It's not like, okay, I've made it to the 3rd one. Like, I'm working through it. I can do this.
Right.
It goes back and forth and up and down. And
do you still find days you're working through it yourself? Yeah,
there's certain times I realized, and this was the first year of my life that I knew it well enough. I think I've just done enough kind of self-actualization. The anniversary of him passing and his birthday, I've just learned to take the day off work.
Good for you.
Just take a personal day, and more than that, it's just,
that's great.
I've learned, flip that coin. Instead of sitting there miserable, I try to do something, and I told all my clients that at the rehab too, try to do something to celebrate that person's life.
I like that, flipping that coin.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So that's what it's about. That's,
yeah.
You're going to have the horrible, the sadness, the anger, all of that. But if you can take the time to focus on celebrating having that person in your life. My mom asked me after Mike passed, she said, would it have been better if you hadn't met him? And I said, absolutely not, So knowing that having that person be impactful, it should... I wish I remembered it word for word, but there's a post that from Kubler-Ross where it talks about, of course it's going to hurt. It should hurt like that person had an impact on your life. It's beautiful, and grief, everybody's gone through it. I don't think a single person on the planet, whether you lost a pet or...
Right. There is that quote, better to have loved and lost than never loved at all.
Absolutely.
Goes something like that. And I think it's embracing that love. We're going to be getting ready to wrap it up, but I have one more question for you. And it's, what is the hardest thing about your job, and what is the best thing about your job? The hardest first.
The hardest for my job currently is when it's not even the job itself, which I think a lot of people think it is. It's when a kid is taken out of whatever foster home they're in and put in another one, and I don't get to say bye. I don't get to
Why would
really
that happen?
Terminate with them. It happens a lot.
Ugh.
Yeah, so it's either... it's just there's not that many foster families out there. It could be the kid has an issue with something. It could be their biological parent is in San Diego, so they try to move them closer. These kids get bounced around left and right. Like I most 8-year-olds have probably been, in like 3 different homes.
Oh my God.
So
That's
I had
heartbreaking.
a little one I worked with. She was 11. Like, if I could have taken her home and fostered her myself, I would have.
You would have. I know you would have too. God. Oh.
Yeah, I went to session one day and she wasn't there. I think that's the hardest, and the best part is just seeing improvements in these kids. Seeing kids go from coming crying every session to genuinely happy, or kids being, a lot of kids, their sadness comes out as anger. So seeing kids just, very aggressive behaviors, just seeing any improvement, knowing, it's not a matter of like, okay, I helped this kid. It's like, this is awesome. Like, the kid's made progress.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's what it's about. There's no other reason. Like, yeah, going to school, getting a paycheck, whatever, but just seeing someone blossom and kind of come into their own, become more positive, that's what it's about.
And ultimately, that's your goal, is to end up working with children, terminally ill children? Is that?
I really, really like the rehabs, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I would definitely get back into that. But
and that was with adults?
Long-term goal is to work with kids and families with terminal illnesses, but every single mentor I've ever had tells me that what you plan to do with it takes you a whole different route. So I've already accepted that I'm just, a lot of people want to do a private practice and then end up, every teacher I had would go and tell their story of, how the career took them. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to be open to where my heart takes me, like, in this journey.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Practicing what you preach, being open. And Becky, you are such a blessing to the world and so many people, how you do your work with those in addiction, children who we can't even imagine. I'm sure I can't even imagine some of the terrible things that they've had to live through, the nightmares you may have about it, the things that you probably feel your hands are tied some days, but you've done the best you can, and see that improvement or that turn of joy come across their face. And thank you so much for everything you do, and that is why you're an everyday hero and you are on our show. So
I was honored when you asked me. I don't think of myself like that, but
you are.
At the same point, I think I'm going to find someone in my life today and tell them, I think we all know heroes and
definitely
should tell people. So thank you. I really, really am blessed that you asked me.
You truly are. And whoever you end up helping into this coming week and for, the rest of your journey, they are so lucky and in good hands. And really, I know they're going to be very grateful to have you in their corner and there for them. So thank you for everything you do daily. And thanks for being a hero.
Well, thank you for making this podcast. I'm definitely going to follow it.
Oh, yay. Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. And thanks for taking the time to talk about what you do and shine some light on what really goes on in your daily life, and the victories and the not so great times too about it, but all of it. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right. Well, we will talk to you later.
Okay. Sounds good. Bye.
Bye. Thank you again, Becky, for being on the show, and thank you for listening to our show. This is Lorraine signing off with Everyday Heroes, and I look forward to bringing you our next hero in a couple of weeks.